We'll start with the Mangalacharan. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Saguna Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Sri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchkalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Eva पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Again, thank you for joining. So today we will start with our discussion on the first module of Bhagavad Gita, which essentially is the first 6 chapters of the Gita. Today's class will be a little different because this is the first on the subject. We met a week earlier, but that was details about the course. From the next week onwards, the class would look like we will start with the group presentations, followed by discussion or Q&A, and then I'll have 20 to 30 minutes to give you an overview of the next chapter. Right? So that would be the typical class structure. Today I have more time, so I'm going to speak for a little longer. You also have more time, so any questions that you have with respect to what we discussed last time, what we'll discuss this time, hopefully you had time to listen to the recordings on this topic, so we can have a little bit more time for discussion. So I'm going to share my presentation, and we can start with the overview of the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita starts with the setting of the scene, and this is not written by Prabhupada, but is written by the publishers. And the goal was to introduce the setting of the scene of the Bhagavad Gita to those who are not aware of the background. So most of the people from Indian background, they're very much aware of Mahabharata and the battle between the Pandavas and the Kurus, and Krishna speaking the Gita. But the publishers were, Bhagavad Gita, as you know, was first published in the US. So the bulk of setting of the scene is a summary of the events that lead to the battle of Kurukshetra being fought, and Krishna speaking the Gita to Arjun. The last part of setting the scene, even though it comes under by the publishers, but they've essentially borrowed it from Srila Prabhupada. So one of the points that they make is that why is this Bhagavad Gita called as it is, right? And the reason that they gave is that the general pattern translators have followed in rendering Bhagavad Gita into English has been to brush aside the person Krishna to make room for their own concepts and philosophies. Right? So this was true at the time, this is true even now. So people, if they want to present their own thoughts, um, uh, they rely on the fact that most of the other people have not read the Bhagavad Gita, right? So they will say in Gita, Krishna has said, and then they will say whatever they want to, say. Once I was giving a lecture on Bhagavad Gita in Vrindavan, and then a lady stood up there and said, well, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said that family is most important. You have to take care of your family. And then I said, where in the Gita? She said, I really don't know, but I know that's the essence of the Gita. And then I said, well, actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna to kill his family, as opposed to what you're saying. There are also people who will write books, translations, give lectures, and essentially they present their own thoughts. So Srila Prabhupada wanted to emphasize that the purports that he's writing, they follow the spirit of the speaker. They acknowledge the position of Krishna, and they also capture the spirit in which Krishna is speaking. So some of the common misinterpretations of the Bhagavad Gita is that the Mahabharata is mythology. And so essentially, people will draw symbolism from it, saying that the horses are the senses, and the chariot is the body, and Arjuna is the soul, and Krishna is the intelligence, and the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation of a person with themselves, or they will basically say it's just a story that's been spun up for people to, as a vehicle for people to teach other people, right? So in all cases, what they do is that they take away the divinity of Krishna. They either present their own contaminated thoughts, or they will completely hide Krishna behind these things as that this is a metaphor and this is symbolism, etc. So the publishers are setting the theme that this Bhagavad Gita does not follow that pattern, that the author only speaks what the original speaker intends to be conveyed, while acknowledging the position of the original speaker or Krishna. So Prabhupada dedicates the Bhagavad Gita. So he says to Sri Baldev Vidyabhushan, who presented so nicely the Govind Bhasya commentary on Vedanta philosophy. Right? So this is one of the crowning achievements. And because Srila Prabhupada has dedicated the Bhagavad Gita to Baladev Vidyabhushan, we'll just spend a few minutes learning a little bit about this great Vaishnava personality. So he was born in Orissa, specifically in the Remuna village in the Purushottam Kshetra in Jagannath Puri, and he had accepted sannyas in the Madhava Sampradaya. So as many of you may know, that ISKCON follows the Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya, right? So the Madhav Sampradaya, which is a part of the Brahma Sampradaya, that is coming from Lord Brahma, enunciated by Sripad Madhavacharya, And Gaudiya Sampradaya is kind of a refinement or a branch of Madhav Sampradaya that incorporates the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially the Chintya Bheda Ved Tattva. So Baldev Vidibhushan, he actually was part of the Madhav Sampradaya. They're essentially the same, but there are subtle philosophical differences. So one has to be a little bit of a expert in Vaishnava theology to see the differences, but there are. The Madhavas are Tattvavadis and Gaudiyas are Achintya Bheda Tattva. So there are slight differences. And at one point, Baldev Vidibhushan, he met a Vaishnava by the name of Radha Damodar Dev Goswami, who was a disciple of the famous Rasikananda Prabhu, who is a disciple of Shyamananda Prabhu, who is a disciple of, or the Shiksha disciple of Jiva Goswami, one of the six Goswamis. So he was so influenced by talking with Radha Damodar Goswami that he actually converted from Madhava Sampradaya to Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya, right? And he became a famous Vaishnava scholar. He took lots of instruction and he considered Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who was another Gaudiya Vaishnava scholar, as his Shiksha Guru. Right? So in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, there are two famous commentaries of the Bhagavad Gita, one written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and one written by Baldev Vidibhushan. Right? And the commentaries, obviously, there is a fair amount of overlap, but the moods are a little different. Right? So one time somebody asked Srila Prabhupada that if there are so many commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita, why are you writing another commentary? And Prabhupada said, that is my commentary, in a way of saying that reflects my mood. That is my realizations. So we'll have noticed that every time we reach the Bhagavad Gita, we have very personal realizations. There are some tattvas that are generic, but there are specific realizations. And Prabhupada was saying that those are my realizations that I want to share. So similarly, the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baldev Vidibhushan are similar, but also there are certain differences. So when Prabhupada wrote the commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, he used Baldev Vidibhushan's commentary as the basis, right? Which is the authorized way to do. That if you're writing it in Parampara, you look at the commentary of the previous Acharya, and based on that, you capture the spirit and write it. Later on, Bhurijan Prabhu, a famous scholar in ISKCON, he wrote the book called Surrender Unto Me, which captures the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also. So you'll notice that in the lectures that I have recorded on these verses, I have taken input from these places. So the basis, of course, is Srila Prabhupada's purport. But then I've also studied the commentaries by Baldev Vidibhushan and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And wherever it is relevant, I have incorporated those aspects also in the lecture. So back to our Baldev Vidibhushan. So he's famous as a Vaishnava scholar, disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The focus now changes to Jaipur, where there is this Radha Govind temple. And the Radha Govind temple is the Pratibha Murtis are worshipped in Vrindavan, but the original deities, they were moved because of fear of Aurangzeb, and they're worshipped in Jaipur. So the king over there, King Sadachari, he was also a Gaudiya Vaishnava, and under his patronage, the worship of the Govinda deity in Jaipur was done by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But then there was some debate. So there is a sect of Vaishnavas known as Ramanandis. So they objected that actually the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they are not bona fide because they don't have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. And Vedanta Sutra is considered to be something like a rite of passage. All the Sampradayas, they have a commentary written by the Acharya, by Madhavacharya, Ramanujacharya. They all have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by Srila Vyasadeva. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not encourage writing that commentary because he considered the Srimad Bhagavatam to be a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. However, the Ramanandis, they made this an issue, saying that there is no commentary on the Vedanta Sutras, so the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are not bona fide, therefore they cannot worship the deity. So the king, he invited Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as the leading Vaishnava to come and make the case. However, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur at that time was very old and he was unable to make the journey. So he sent Baldev Vidyabhushan. So there was, as was that in the court, there was a debate. And even though Baldev Vidyabhushan made many points, it kept coming back to this point that there is no commentary on the Vedanta Sutras by Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So then Baldev Vidyabhushan said that give me a week and I will produce a commentary, which is an Herculean task. Given that the Vedanta Sutras, 555 sutras, one of the most complex, concise, cryptic aspect of the Vedas, people spend lifetimes trying to even understand the commentary. And Baldev Vidyabhushan just asked for a week. And in the week, he prayed to Govinda deity and he wrote this commentary. He called it Govinda Bhasya because he said, I did not write it. Bhasya means spoken, that it was spoken to me by Govinda. And then when he presented the commentary, everybody was very impressed. Even the Ramanandis, they wanted to take shelter of Baldev Vidyabhushan, which of course he said no. But then the worship continued and the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were established as formally established as bona fide. So Srila Prabhupada acknowledges in the dedication this achievement by Baldev Vidyabhushan. Now Baldev Vidyabhushan, like I said, he wrote many books. So his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita is called Gita Bhushan, and he wrote many other books. But Govinda Bhasya is something that he became famous for because of the circumstances. So we now come to the preface. So preface is Srila Prabhupada's introduction to what he's going to write. Right? So here he says that originally I wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is in the form in which it is presented now. Right? So there's a little bit of history over here, that when Srila Prabhupada was in India, then he was writing a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. And of course, at that time, everything was written on paper. So he had a stack of hundreds of handwritten sheets, which he was planning to get to basically publish as the commentary. However, for whatever reason, his wife was not very favorable to whatever he was doing. So one day he comes back and he finds out that those piles of paper, they had been sold by his wife to India. They're called the kabadiwalas. So they come and they buy paper and they'll give something. So she had sold them for a pack of tea biscuits, and essentially his years of work had gone. So when Prabhupada came to the US, he did not have a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. Now he did have a commentary on the first canto of the Bhagavatam. So he had written it in 3 volumes, which he carried with him. But in terms of the Bhagavad Gita, the book that he carried was written by the second president of India, Sri Radhakrishna. Now, Radhakrishna was an impersonalist, a Mayavadi. So Prabhupada did not really like his commentary. Right? And Radhakrishna also was, his commentary was, so it was less of a commentary, it was more of an of interfaith, right? So he was trying to synthesize Bhagavad Gita with Islam and Christianity. He was presenting, he essentially, the point that Prabhupada makes, that he brushes Krishna aside, presents him as a mythical figure, and was trying to focus more on the philosophical aspect. So, but that was at that time one of the most popular commentaries available. So Prabhupada would read from that, but he was very unhappy about it. So when the movement started, then Prabhupada spent a lot of time and made the first cut of the Bhagavad Gita commentary. And he had a few disciples at the time, not many. So he asked them to have to get it printed. So they sent letters to all the publishers and nobody responded. And Hayagriv Swami, who was a professor in English in I believe Ohio University, and Brahmananda, they were writing everywhere to all the publishers, and ultimately they got a letter from Macmillan that we have a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, please come and see me. So they were very excited. They went there to the person and they were like, we are very happy that you're looking to print the commentary. And the person said, no, I'm not really interested in printing the commentary, but I wanted to read it for myself. So he had some interest, but I don't think so Macmillan is going to print it. So they were sitting there very disappointed. And then they noticed that there was a person who was walking behind. And as he was walking, just by the demeanor of the other people, they could understand that he was fairly high up the corporate hierarchy. So then they asked this person, who is this guy who just went? And he said, oh, he's the head of the whole Macmillan Publishing in the US. And they said, can we meet him? He said, no, you have to take an appointment. It'll take you months to meet him. So disciples being disciples, empowered by Prabhupada and Krishna, they kind of just walked into his office. And and they started off by saying that we know it's difficult, but our guru has written this commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. And then that person, he said, oh, you have a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita? I would love to publish it. And so they were shocked. So it turned out that person was contemplating a project at the time to publish commentaries on the main religions of the world. So he was able to get people to write on Christianity, on Judaism, on Islam, but he was not able to find somebody to write an authoritative English commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. And so this was a project in his mind, he hadn't shared it. And when the devotees came in, he was happy. So they took the book and it was published, but he had this stipulation that it has to be printed in less than 400 pages. So they removed they moved all the illustrations, they removed the word-to-word translation. So it got published. The Prabhupada was not happy, but nevertheless, it got published and distributed. So when ISKCON grew a little bit, then what became the BBT? It was called ISKCON Press at the time, and later on became the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. They published the Bhagavad Gita, and over times, different covers have come out. But what we see now is the original, what Srila Prabhupada had written, to some editing going on. But the original, in terms of the word to word, Prabhupada very much liked the illustrations. Right? He said that even when you distribute a book, even if they don't read, if they just see a picture of Krishna, their spiritual life has begun. Right? And so he was very keen on having the illustration. So Prabhupada makes that point in the preface. Prabhupada also uses this opportunity to establish the authenticity of ISKCON, right? So he says that Bhagavad Gita is authentic And ISKCON is based on the principles of Bhagavad Gita. So what it means is that ISKCON is also authentic, right? And then he makes the point that is becoming interesting to the older generation. So one of the things that people would at the time talk about ISKCON is mostly attracting hippies, younger people, new age movement. All of it was true, but partially true, right? So they were the ones who initially got interested, but they also got along with them their parents, their elder brothers and friends, and the movement spread both horizontally and vertically, right? So older people came, and people from different ethnic varieties also came. And then Prabhupada writes this, that I've tried to present the Bhagavad Gita without any adulteration, right? So this is Prabhupada's most fundamental claim to the Bhagavad Gita, right? That he has preserved the spirit of the speaker. So Prabhupada says one has to understand the central point of the Bhagavad Gita, right? And then he again makes the plug that our Krishna consciousness movement is teaching the whole world this central point, right? Which is why it is non-different from the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, which is what makes it authentic. Okay. So now we come to the introduction. So Prabhupada wrote the introduction in Sydney, Australia, very long introduction, and 30 pages. Prabhupada wrote it not just as a summary of the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, because it doesn't really talk so much about like the Mahabharata and all that. It's a summary of the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. And so I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you read the introduction several times, because it gives you a bird's eye view. So it is long, 30 pages, and Prabhupada writes it in a conversational style. And it's not written as an article. It's like Prabhupada, even though it's not a recorded lecture, but it almost feels like Prabhupada is giving a lecture. He makes a topic, develops it, moves on, makes another topic there. But once you go through it, you will get in this 30 short pages the essence of. So they say the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of the Vedas, and the introduction is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita there. So Prabhupada was so much enlivened by the introduction himself that in 1971, when he attended the Ardha Kumbh Mela in Prayag, Allahabad at the time, he wanted the Bhagavad Gita to be translated into Hindi and distributed over there, but that was not done in time. So then he said that you translate the introduction to him in Hindi, right? And that is still available as Gita Sar. And that was a book that was widely distributed. So even to this day, you can get the introduction separately, both in English and Hindi. Hindi is Gita Sar, English is what is introduction to Bhagavad Gita, right? So like I mentioned, Bhagavad Gita is a synthesis of the Vedas, and the introduction is a synthesis of the Bhagavad Gita, right? So when you do an analysis, you take one point and expand upon it. And when you do a synthesis, you take several points and summarize them. So the Gita is the summary of the Vedas, and the introduction is the summary of the Gita. That's what makes it very potent. It's both a prologue and epilogue, right? So you can read it before, you should read it before you read the Gita, and you should read it after you read the Gita. And in both times, you will learn a lot from it. So Prabhupada begins with the Mangalacharan, and he makes this point that it's not possible to understand the Gita without the mercy of Radha, Krishna, and the Vaishnavas. Right? So the Mangalacharan that we do before all the classes comes from the introduction in the Bhagavad Gita, right? So Bhagavad Gita talks about in the Mangalacharan, he talks about Rupa Goswami, special place to Rupa Goswami, Panchatattva, Radha, Krishna, Gopis, Vaishnavas. And interestingly, this is the only place in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna actually refers to Srimati Radharani. He does not refer to her anywhere else. Very much like the Bhagavatam. There's no reference to Radharani, considered to be a more advanced topic. And again, Mangalacharan, one is invoking the mercy because only by mercy, it's not an intellectual pursuit. Only by mercy can one understand the Gita. And example is that of Arjuna, and that because he surrendered to Krishna, Krishna spoke the Gita to him. But when Krishna speaks the Gita to him, even though he is the personality of Godhead, at many points he will quote from the Shastras. And Arjuna at many points will quote from what the other sadhus say. So we see that in the Bhagavad Gita, this three-way check of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra is there. That what the Guru says is substantiated by what the other Vaishnavas, the sadhus say, and what the Gurus and the sadhus say is substantiated by what is spoken in the Shastra. Prabhupada makes a very important point in the introduction that is very important for us to read the Gita and understand it, because by reading the Bhagavad Gita, one gets this understanding that Krishna is God. But in order to get that understanding, one should accept the fact that Gita is spoken by God. Right? Because if you do not accept Krishna as God, then Gita is just another book, another piece of verses spoken by an exalted personality. And people can say, Gita, Krishna thinks like this, I think like that. Well, a lot of people do, right? If they don't accept Krishna as God, they will speculate. Well, Krishna said this, but maybe he means me. Like Radha Krishna, right? When Krishna says, Sarvadam Pratyaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Braj, he says, well, Krishna says, Mam Ekam Sharanam Braj, surrender unto me. But actually what he means is that surrender unto the divinity in yourself. But it completely changes the meaning because he does not accept the fact that Krishna is God. But this is the cyclical, the catch-22, that to get the most out of Gita, you have to accept that Krishna is God. But only after reading the Gita will you reach this realization that Krishna is God. So Prabhupada breaks the fallacy of the cyclical reasoning by saying that we should at least theoretically accept Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Right? So we may not have full conviction. Right? We may not say that I know for a fact that Krishna is God, but we can definitely say that I would like to assume that Krishna is God. Then read the Bhagavad Gita, then that assumption becomes conviction. Because unless we don't make that assumption, we will never be able to touch the essence of the Gita. So Prabhupada, in the purpose, he talks about how this is, not yet another commentary, right? Because it captures the essence of the Gita. These points I'll go through a little quickly in the interest of time, and also because they're all there in the introduction. There's no way that I would have done 30-page introduction. I've covered a lot of it in my pre-recorded lectures, but here I'm just summarizing them. So in the purpose, Srila Prabhupada talks about the purpose of the Gita, which is to capture the essence. The purpose of his commentary, which is to capture the essence of the Gita. He talks about the purpose of human life, which he says is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Let us now inquire into the nature of the absolute, to make spiritual inquiry, right? And he talks about the purpose of Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita, which is to deliver mankind from the nations of material existence, and summarizes that all the instructions of Gita are intended to awaken this pure spiritual consciousness. Then Prabhupada expands on the source of knowledge, right? So he says that when one is engaging in studying the scriptures, one has to assume that they are infallible. Because when you keep asking, where does this come from? Where does this come from? At some point, it has to stop. And then it stops in the Vedas. The Vedas are axiomatic, and they are standing on themselves. They don't need anybody. So actually, they don't even stand on Krishna, because the Vedas are just like Krishna is eternal, Jiva is eternal, the Vedas are also eternal. There's no time when they were not there. But so, and of course, they're the sound representation of Krishna, but they don't even rely on Krishna. They're axiomatic in the sense that any statement made in the Vedas stands on its own. If the Vedas say that feces and urine is bad, it is bad. But if they say that cow dung and cow urine is good, it is good. There is no scope of trying to ask for why and when. So based on that, Prabhupada says that the Vedas present Sanatana Dharma, and Sanatana Dharma does not refer to any sectarian religion, because if the Vedas are infallible, they have to apply to everyone at all times and all places, right? So it cannot be constricted by religion. And Prabhupada then makes this distinction between religion and Sanatana Dharma. So consider it as philosophy and practice, right? I give somebody a philosophical understanding that exercising is good for your health. Right? It's a general philosophical, not philosophical, but it's a general fact. Let's assume I tell a person exercising is good for your health. Now, one person may choose to exercise by running. Another person may swim. A third person may do calisthenics, right? So they're all doing exercises which will improve their health. They're all based on the same statement. So similarly, what is present in the Gita is non-sectarian, right? It does not lend itself to any particular religion. Different religions may take that and implement it differently, but they all converge in the sense of that they draw sustenance from the Vedas. So Prabhupada makes this point that you will not see the word Hindu or Indians in the Bhagavad Gita, right? And because the knowledge is locked in it, it is best received in the disciplic succession with the Guru. 5 topics of the Gita are the Ishvara, which is Krishna; Kal, which is time; Jiva, which is the soul; Karma, which is activities; Prakriti, material nature, right? So these are the 5 topics. And I won't go into them much details, but the Ishvara talks about Prabhupada talks about who is God and who is not God. He talks about the demigods, that they are jivas, but really not God. It talks about the 3 aspects of God: the Brahman, the Paramatma, and Bhagwan. He talks about Krishna's Vishnu Tattva expansions, and he talks about the Mayavadi philosophy, which basically talks about the fact that not only is Krishna not God, but everybody is God, right? So Prabhupada talks about these aspects of Ishvara. Then Jiva, Prabhupada talks about how they are part and parcel. Right? You'll see this word part and parcel. So part means if you take a part of something, it is qualitatively the same. If you take the parcel of something, that means it is a minute part of it. Like you say, can you parcel out a bit of this? So Srila Prabhupada will often say that the Jiva is part and parcel of Krishna, which is another way of saying that they're qualitatively the same, but quantitatively, Krishna is Vibhu, he is infinite. The Jiva is Anu, infinitesimal. Then because they're qualitatively the same, they both have Satchitanand. They both have the same spiritual consciousness. Then Prabhupada makes this point that Jiva is eternal and eternally distinct, right? So he negates the whole notion of that the perfection is to merge back into the Brahman, and or the Buddhist notion that perfection is destruction of the Jiva, right? So perfection of the Jiva is to be reestablished in its mode of service to Krishna. Prabhupada talks about the conditioned and perfected souls. Perfected souls live in the spiritual world. Conditioned souls live in the material world, and how the difference between the conditioned and the perfected is that the perfected souls are aware of the constitutional position, which is rendering service to Krishna. The conditioned souls have forgotten that. Prabhupada talks a little bit about karma, pious and impious activities, how karma drives the cycle of reincarnation, that whether we do good karma or bad karma, we have to take a body to enjoy or suffer the results. And that forces a cycle of reincarnation. Important point about karma is that of the 5 topics, 4 are eternal. Krishna is eternal, Jiva is eternal, Kal is eternal, Prakriti is eternal, but karma is temporary, in the sense that karma comes into existence and it can be destroyed also. And that essentially is the source of hope for conditioned souls like us. Because if karma was eternal, then we would be eternally trapped in the cycle of karma. But the matter of fact is, we can destroy karma through devotional service. And when we free ourselves of karma, we are freeing ourselves of the material world and going to the spiritual world. So Prabhupada emphasizes on the fact that the karma is actually temporary, and the destruction of this temporary karma is synonymous to liberation. Then Prabhupada talks about Prakriti, the 3 modes of material nature, and how they influence the people: Satagun, Rajagun, and Tamogun. This is an important point that Prabhupada makes that will get explained more in the Bhagavad Gita, especially in the 14th chapter. That it's not that the modes contaminate the person. Right? Many times we say that this person is under the influence, is contaminated by the modes. The modes don't contaminate the person. The person chooses to be contaminated by the modes. Right? So because the modes in themselves are inert. The jiva is sentient. So something that is inert cannot overpower something that is sentient. Right? But the sentient being can take that inert aspect and voluntarily be impacted by it. So the jiva, even though you can say this jiva is under the mode of goodness and passion and ignorance, what you're actually saying is this jiva is choosing to be under the mode. The choice is with the jiva. Prabhupada talks about the Vedic concept of proprietorship, a point that is made in the Upanishad. And then time, right? Time, Kalasmi, form of Krishna, speaks about how time is conspicuous by its absence in the spiritual world. In the material world, time is everywhere, and time is perceived as destruction or death. In the spiritual world, there is no destruction, there is no death, so there is no fear of time. And this is one of the biggest differences between the material and the spiritual world. And then finally, Prabhupada speaks about the essence of Bhagavad Gita, which is the easy process of bhakti. He speaks a little bit about Devi Varnashram, how one can, while situated in their own Varna and Ashram, execute devotional service and attain perfection. So Prabhupada says that if one adopts the principles enunciated in Bhagavad Gita, he can make his life perfect and make a permanent solution to all the problems of life. This is the sum and substance of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So such a powerful assurance by a pure soul. Right? So when great personalities, when they make statements like this, they provide so much of shelter for us. So when you're reading taking up the study of Bhagavad Gita, then we can meditate on this this statement, right? Krishna gives his assurances throughout the Bhagavad Gita, right? And when we see that those assurances, they're assimilated and magnified by his devotees. And because Krishna giving assurance to Arjun, Dwapar Yog, Arjun perfect pure devotee, Krishna personality of Godhead, we say, okay, Arjun had Krishna sitting on the chariot right next to him, maybe the assurances make more sense. But when Srila Prabhupada gives those assurances, right, so he has absorbed all the assurances that Krishna has given, and he is mercifully extending it to us. Right? So much of protection that comes in these statements. And then Prabhupada ends the introduction with Falstuti, which is the benefits of reading the Bhagavad Gita. He essentially quotes from Gita Mahatmya. So Gita Mahatmya is a conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi. It appears in the Padma Puran, and Prabhupada gives various verses over there. You can read this in the introduction. This is my favorite, and this is where I'll end. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gita. So Lord Shiva is saying, let there be only one scripture. Which one? Devaki Putra Gita, which is the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the son of Devaki, which is Krishna. Eko Devo Devaki Putra Deva. Let there be one worshipable Lord. Who? Devaki Putra Eva. Only. Right? Eva means exclusive. Nobody else. Only. Eko Mantras Tasya Namani Yani. That if there is one mantra that can be chanted, because the Vedas are full of thousands of mantras and they all have potency. But Lord Shiva is saying if there is one mantra that has to be chanted, Tasya Namani Yani, the names of Krishna, like the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. If you have to do one activity, then serve Krishna. So when we study the Bhagavad Gita, we actually attain all this. Ekam Shastram, right? So we're reading the Bhagavad Gita. Eko Deva, we're acknowledging the Krishna as the personality of Godhead. Eko Mantras Tasnamani Yani. So each shloka in the Bhagavad Gita is a mantra. Right? And of course, we're supported by the chanting of the Maha Mantra. And Bhurijan Prabhu makes this point that if you come across a difficult section in the Bhagavad Gita, chant a few rounds and read it, and then you will see that you will understand them much easier. And Karmani Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. So for all of you, and that's why I congratulate you, setting time aside from your busy lives, and Karmani Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. Now, so the greatest service that you can do to Krishna is by carefully studying his words and then acting upon them. So Prabhupada ends it with the disciplic succession from all the way from Krishna to Srila Prabhupada. This was first, actually it was established by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and it names the prominent acharyas, right? So obviously from Krishna to Prabhupada, there would be millions of people, but Bhaktisiddhanta, he picks the main people, like from Vyasadeva to Sripad Madhavacharya. It jumps 5,000 years. But actually Madhavacharya, he had darshan of Srila Vyasadeva, right? So Bhaktisiddhanta, he talks from Vyasadeva to Madhavacharya. Also, you'll notice that the disciplic succession is not always diksha. It's not through initiation. It's through, a lot of it is shiksha. It's basically through instructions. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not really initiate Rupa Goswami. He instructed Rupa Goswami. And similarly, Baldev Vidyabhushan was the Shiksha disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Bhakti Vinod was the Shiksha disciple of Jagannath Das Goswami. Gaur Kishore was the Shiksha disciple of Bhakti Vinod. Bhakti Siddhanta, of course, was the Diksha disciple. Srila Prabhupada was the Diksha disciple. But Prabhupada mentions the disciplic succession to re-establish the fact that he's qualified to write the Bhagavad Gita, the commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, because he's connected all the way to Krishna through the disciplic succession. So I will end over here. And like I said, the class is unusual because I got more time to speak, and I've taken this opportunity to give you a high-level oversight into everything, all the way from foreword to the dedication to the preface and the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. Next week we will do the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. But now I'll stop and see if there is any discussions from your end, any questions, comments, observations about what you heard today, what you heard in the recorded lectures, or anything else. Yes, Ashutosh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the beautiful lecture, and please accept my respectful obeisances onto your lotus feet. Thank you. So I have two questions. The first one is the philosophical differences between Dvaita and Achinta Bheda Abheda. Is Achinta Bheda Abheda an extension of Dvaita? And the second question is also correlated. What versions or summaries of Bhagavad Gita did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, went through? Was it from the Adi Shankaracharya or directly from Madhvacharya? So I just wanted to know those historical points. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. So your first question was, what is the difference between Achintya Bheda Tattva and the Tattva of the Madhavas? So, so the Sripad Madhavacharya's Tattva, so Madhavacharya stands, his symbol is this, two fingers. So his was the Dvaita philosophy, in which he speaks that there is Krishna, there is the Jiva, and they are different. Dvaita means they are two. Shankaracharya's philosophy was Advaita, that there is God, there is Jiva, and they are the same. Right. So in order to prominently negate it, but the Madhavacharya would sit like this to say that they are two. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu modified by saying that they are two, but they're qualitatively the same. Right? So when they say bhed abhed, so bhed means that there are two. Krishna is Krishna, Jiva is Jiva, and they will always be separate. Abhed means that qualitatively Krishna is Satchitananda and the Jiva is also Satchitananda. Right? So he did not, it's not that he deviated from it, but he explained it. Mahaprabhu explained it a bit further. Which commentary that of Gita did Mahaprabhu refer from? I do not know. I haven't seen references to it. I know that as far as the Bhagavatam is concerned, he referred to the commentary by Sridhar Swami. But I haven't read references of which version of Bhagavad Gita he referred to.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Nikita Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Wonderful class, so much new information that at least I was not aware of. Prabhuji, my question is, in the introduction you mentioned about three-way check of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Can you please elaborate and explain on that?
Sure. Thank you. Wonderful question. So this three-way check, it comes in order to avoid any ambiguity, because the Vedas, they speak about many things for many people in many circumstances. And that's the nature of the Vedas, because they cast a wide net. So the Vedas will speak about Devopasana, demigod worship. They will speak about animal sacrifice. They will also speak about the most exalted form of Vaishnava Puja, right? then it becomes incumbent on the guru to explain the Vedas to the disciple. So anything that the guru speaks should be from the Vedas. But because the Vedas speak about so many things, right, and the guru would pick whatever is relevant to the disciple, the third check comes in, which is what are the other exalted personalities speak, right? So if I take some part of the Vedas and come over here and say that I have good news for you, I'm God, right? So, and then I say the Vedas, so first thing you'll say is, show me where in the Vedas it is said. Or maybe I can take some part of the Vedas and interpret it, misinterpret it, and say that this is there. Then who else accepts this fact? So in the Bhagavad Gita, we see that ourselves, that when Arjun sees the universal form of Krishna, and he says that, the Vedas say that you are God. You have shown yourself as God. And also, exalted personalities like Narad, Asit, and they will say that you're God. Right. So then he's establishing the three tick marks. From our perspective, it is always useful for us to check these three boxes. Right. This does not mean that we have to question everything our guru says, but what it means is that when a guru tells us something, 9 times out of 10, the guru will say that this is from where I'm telling you. Right. And then we also would in order to develop further faith, we can always get enforcements from it, from other Vaishnavas, other senior devotees, right? And that increases our conviction. So this is the three-way check that is established by within the Vedas itself as a self-checking mechanism.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Another question? Amit Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the lecture. And I have like couple of questions. One is like, should we treat Arjuna also as a disciplic succession? Because like the Krishna, when delivered Bhagavad Gita to Arjun, he said like, now you will be starting the new parampara. So will he also fall under the disciplic succession, the which you share in the last page, but we never see his name in that list?
It's a very good question. So the answer is yes, but Arjun's disciplic succession is presented by Srila Vyasadeva.
Yes.
Because if you remember, Arjun's conversation with Krishna is recorded by Srila Vyasadeva.
Okay, Prabhu.
So actually Vyasadeva is representing Arjun's disciplic succession.
Okay, Prabhuji. And my second question was related with Jiva. So, in one of the like lecture, I think like I heard that like everyone belongs to the spiritual world, but like we did some things that's why we stand into material world. So, what can be the reason sending Jiva to the material world from the spiritual world? Is that like they want to experience something, or what is the main reason behind it?
Excellent question. So Prabhupada says that the root cause of the jiva's fall to the material world is envy of Krishna. Right. So at some point the jiva, for whatever reasons, and Prabhupada says, don't know, free will, coming from free will, the jiva says, why is everybody worshipping Krishna? You should worship me. And that is the mentality. So in the material world, there are so many grades of people, like there are 400,000 species of human beings there. One thing that is common in all of them is that all of them think that they are God.
Okay.
Now, you might say that I don't think I'm God, right? Which is true. But you may not think that you are God, but you want others to think that you're God. Right? That's the difference, right? So if you have some amount of, I mean, unless we are clinically mad, we won't really say that we are God, right? There's some amount of, fact check that goes inside. that can I create planets? Can I clear the congestion on the roads? I can't. So some amount of fact checks will tell you you're not God. So most of us know we are not God, but nevertheless we want to be treated as God.
Okay.
That's the mentality that gets the jiva down to the material world. When that is taken away, we return to the spiritual world.
Okay, Prabhuji. And my last question is related with the Prakriti. Is that as you mentioned recently, that like Prakriti is also eternal, but in I think introduction, because like Prakriti has also an end, because like Wesley, like when the time is end, all of the Prakriti will get destroyed. So should we treat it as a eternal, or is that temporary eternal?
Good question. So it is eternal, but sometimes it is manifested, sometimes it is not. So even when, and this is explained in the Bhagavatam, so even when the universes are destroyed, the Prakriti is not destroyed. It goes back into Mahavishnu. And he keeps it there until he creates another. So it's there. But sometimes it is manifest, sometimes it is unmanifest. But there is no point in time when the material universes do not exist in one form or other. That way it's eternal. However, karma you can destroy. You can destroy by devotional service, or you can destroy by simply enjoying it. Right? If you enjoy the results of the karma, it is destroyed.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for answering. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Shivani Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Prabhuji, I had a similar question related to the Prakriti, but you already answered. But I wanted to more about like the Prakriti also had three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, right? So these are also temporary, right? So how it's the same thing? How these examples relate, and how these falls as a like compare with the Prakriti as a eternal, and these manifest. These three gunas are temporary. So there are lots of things like under Prakriti are temporary, but we are still saying it's an eternal.
Sure, thank you. Very good question. So think of it this way: that we have three umbrellas, and you can choose to be in any of the three. The three umbrellas are there.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere. You can choose to be any of the three umbrellas. So for you, the umbrella is temporary. In the morning, you're in Sattvagun. At night, you're in Tamogun. In afternoon, you're mixed gunas. That's your choice.
Mhm.
Right? So as far as you're concerned, your point is right. The influence of the Prakriti is constantly changing, moment to moment. It's changing based on the time of the day, changing. Right now we are in association of devotees. So Sattvagun is very prominent. Morning you get up, you're ready to go to work, you're driving, there's traffic. Rajagun is prominent at the time. At night you're tired, indolent, sleep. Tamogun is prominent. So the influence of the modes might change, but they're always there.
Yeah.
It's up to you to pick and choose which ones you want to be influenced by.
Thank you, Prabhuji. One more question related to Prakriti. Prabhu, can you please describe or maybe give an example what's the difference between the inferior Prakriti and the superior Prakriti? I know that a little bit about the superior Prakriti who has a consciousness, right? Like a human being and the Paramatma or Ishwar. The inferior Prakriti, is this like all the mammals except animals fall under that, and including these material things, like whatever we are seeing now made by the man also, like machines or anything, or for the enjoyment of the sense gratification?
So there are, thank you. So it's a question that is a little bit context sensitive, right? So sometimes the jiva is considered to be the superior Prakriti because the jiva has the ability to control the modes of material nature. So that's considered to be the inferior. The jiva is considered to be the superior Prakriti. Sometimes it's considered said that the mode of goodness is superior to the mode of passion, which is superior to the mode of ignorance. Sometimes, depending on the context, spiritual engagements is considered to be spiritual prakriti because they resonate with one's constitutional position. So depending on the context, the notion of superior and inferior might change.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dhanvat
Thank
pranam.
you. Nice questions. Okay, so we'll take these last 3 questions and stop after that. Nanda Tanuja Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. My question, it might not be clear because I'm not clear in my mind too, but so here goes. So we have heard that the jiva, because of enviousness towards Krishna, falls down into this material realm. Some other places we have heard that Krishna, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's said that the jiva is anadir bahirmukh. So it's eternally bahirmukh, like turned away from Krishna. So how do we reconcile these two?
Thank you. Deep question. Prabhupada was asked this question a few times. And the way he explains is that when it is said that Anadir Bahirmukhi, what it means is that since time immemorial, which means for a very, very long time. So eternity is a theoretical concept, it means infinity, but something can tend to infinity. Like Prabhupada says that, if you have lived so many lives that you have lost count of the number of lives that you have lived in this conditioned state, then for all practical purposes, you have been Bahirmukhi, you have been conditioned since time immemorial. So you can't, immemorial means that you don't have memory of a time when you were not conditioned. So it's does not derive from the literal meaning, but from the more practical aspect, right? That it goes to as far back as you can, as you can think. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I have 2 more questions, and we'll take the last 2 questions. Go ahead, Prabhu. HS Prabhu, not sure what your name is.
Yeah. Dhanvat pranam, Prabhuji. I just have one question right now because everybody says that Maya is so probable. Even Krishna says that Maya is so probable. It's difficult to get beyond it and reach me. So, and all the people are suffering in this miseries of Maya and Trigunatmik Maya, which is very difficult to cross. Even if we become Sattvic, still we can't cross this, right? Most of the time, if we are in Sattvic thoughts. So why God made his Maya and why he put us jivas into this miserable condition? I mean, we are suffering only because of his Maya and nothing else, right? So why God made his Yog Maya so strong?
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question. So one way to understand it is that, you go to a place, let's say you go to a kingdom, and there's a prison house over there, and there's prisoners there, they've been incarcerated, they're suffering. And then you go to the king and you say that you're really cruel king. Why have you built this prison house? Why have you imprisoned people there? Just open the doors of the prison house and let everybody go. Factually speaking, the king does not want people to go into the prison house. The king doesn't want to incarcerate them. It's because of the activities that the people did. They broke the law, they committed some crimes, and really speaking, like in the US, they call them correctional houses. So the reformatories, the correctional houses, the purpose of that of these places is that deviant mentality is corrected. So similarly, this material world is not created by Krishna with a desire to push jivas in it and force them to suffer, but quite the opposite. There are some jivas that, as the Prabhu was saying, they're bahirmukhi. They're naturally, for whatever reason, they develop natural envy towards Krishna. And then they have this aspiration to be Krishna. So Krishna says here in the spiritual world, that mentality, it will not stay in this spiritual world. But I'll create another world for you where there are many other people like you who also have the same mentality, right? And then he creates this material world where the jivas go. But then look at the kindness of Krishna also, right? He creates this material world, he sends the jiva there, he comes along with the jiva as Paramatma. Then he also sends his representatives there as Srila Prabhupada. He comes in the deity form. He sends his word in form of the Shastras. He descends over and over again and again. Yada yada dharmasya, right? So, so the jiva, because of their free will, have exercised their freedom in a certain way, misused their freedom in a certain way, which causes them to come to the material world. And Krishna, while recognizing the fact that the free will has been misused, is also actively working to reclaim them. Right? So that's one way of looking at it. Okay,
No,
thank you.
but even those who are in sattvic mode, right? They are in good people. They're not like demonic people. And also for they said that Brahma created both simultaneously. From one eye, demons came, and from one ear demon came, and one ear devas came. So Devasur Sangram has been right even from in the Satyuga also. And even before that, God had to come to kill Hiranyakashipu. So, like my question was that why in the beginning itself the Maya is so strong uh, that even being in sattvic mode, you cannot reach him. Even if you try to be the best good, sattvic mode is the bestest of the bestest. Still, you can't go beyond it. So that means they will be always happy in sattvic mode while being in the word, being in his Maya. Uh, will that be also equivalent of just being with him?
Relatively. So the mode of goodness is that or relative happen. It's still material. Like it's the best of the worst in the way that in the material world everybody is unhappy, but those in the mode of goodness are little less unhappy than the mode of passion and matter ignorance. Your questions are good. What I would recommend is that as part of your group discussion, you speak about it with the group mentor and go a little bit more deeper. Some of the things that you're saying are not really there from the scriptures. This whole thing of 1 year, other years, and all that. I've never heard it before.
Brahma's ear, they say, the one ear they grow and the other.
Yeah, I heard you the first time, but the point I'm saying is that I've never heard Srila Prabhupada say that, or not in the Vedas. Not to say that it's not there, but at least I'm not aware of it. However, what I would recommend is that as part of the smaller group, you might want to go a little bit deeper into the points. Let me move on and go to the last
Thank you.
question
Thank you.
from
Thank you.
Dinanath Prabhu. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So my question is, when someone gives up this body and they are promoted to the spiritual world with Shri Krishna, is there a possibility that they may fall down back to this material world?
It's a good question. So there's always the possibility, Prabhu, because there is always free will, right? So as long as there is free will, if you say there is no possibility, then you're saying the person loses free will. Ultimately, the reason we come down from the spiritual to the material world is because of misuse of free will, right? It's the free will that causes us to fall down. It's the proper use of the free will that will cause us to go back. However, Srila Prabhupada says, and this is on the authority of Krishna, Krishna will himself say that once you come back to my spiritual world, you will not fall back again. And the reason that he says, Prabhupada explains this, the reason is that as an analogy, so let's assume you do a crime, right? You go to the prison house, everybody beats up on you over there, right? You get beaten up really badly, and then somehow you come out of the prison house, so you will be less inclined to do a crime because now you've experienced all the trials and tribulations in the prison house. Not to say that if you want, you will not do a crime, you could do it. But the possibility of doing it is diminished to the point that it is almost non-existent. Right? So this, which is why Krishna says that once a person from the material world goes to the spiritual world, he does not fall down from there.
So, sorry, Prabhuji. It's just little clarification on what you said right now, that we do have a free will and we can fall down. And but then Krishna saying something. So, what is really the correct answer?
What is really the what?
The correct answer. Does the living soul, living being, falls down from the spiritual world or not? Just yes or no. That's what I want to know. Because you're saying on one hand that we have a free will and we can fall down, and then on the other hand you're saying that Krishna says, yeah, that's what even I read in Bhagavad Gita, that if you are there, you will never ever fall down. That's Krishna's promising.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's a good point. So one way to understand it is that, and this is for all of us, at some point we were in the spiritual world, right? We misused the free will, so we fell down to the material world. Now we are trying to correct that and go back to the spiritual world. When we correct that mentality and go back to the spiritual world, then we don't fall down after that, right? Because we have experienced millions of lifetimes as demigods, as rakshasas, as insects. And at one point, it's said that when the soul goes back to the spiritual world, it gets the memory of all the lives that it has spent in this material world, especially all the troubles that it has gone through. It doesn't experience it, but it gets the memory of it. So now imagine, put yourself in that situation that you're going back to the spiritual world, and you're thinking of yourself from the time that you were a worm in the stool. I mean, not necessarily that you were, but there's a possibility that there's a worm in the stool, or you were a demigod, or you were a rakshas, and then you're back to the spiritual world. So at that time, your desire to stay true to your service in the spiritual world is a million times stronger, because you have seen the other side there, right? The other aspect of it was, and this is actually, I'm saying that setting the tone for future discussions, Prabhupada was often asked that what will happen in the spiritual world, and why did the jiva fall down, and when did it fall down, 1st of January or 3rd of January, you know? And Prabhupada would say that, he would give the example of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that if your house is on fire, then your focus should be getting out of the house, not trying to figure out when did the fire start, who started it, was it an electric fire or gasoline fire. You know, your main intention at the time should be how to get out of this burning house. And everything will be revealed to you in due course of time. Right? So all the questions that we have about the spiritual world, that, you know, is it rectangular, is it circular, and who will be my neighbor over there, all those will be answered when we go back to the spiritual world. It's good to think about it, but it's not good to obsess about it. It's a useless conversation, right? That, you know, why did this happen, and how will this not happen? Right? What is our adhikar right now? Our adhikar right now is to follow the sadhana, the rules and regulations of devotional service, which will perfect us in our journey back. That's our adhikar.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Prabhuji, but I think to your answer, you are right that, you know, like even Jaya Vijaya, it says in Bhagavad Puran, were originally in the spiritual world, and all this Ravan and Hiranyakashipu, they fell down on the earth because of the curse of the Brahmans who they proudly did not bow. So there are examples in Bhagavad that they can fall down from spiritual world, right?
Yes, and to some extent they are pastimes also, right? So they fall down, they go back again. You know, the fall of Jay and Vijay, they're there to indicate the influence, that how important it is to honor other Vaishnavas. What is the danger of offending Vaishnavas? So similarly, like Arjun, right? Like Arjun in the Gita, he's bewildered. And Prabhupada at one point says Arjun can't be bewildered. He's a pure devotee of Krishna. But Krishna puts him in that situation so that Gita can be spoken. So there are different categories. We are not in that category, right? Or at least I am not. Maybe you are. At least, I'm not in the category where, I am part of Krishna's Leela. We can just understand that we are trying to execute the do's and don'ts of Sadhana Vedi Bhakti in order to perfect eventually perfect our spiritual life. Okay, so we are way over time, and thank you very much for the very invigorating discussion. Generally, we will not have that much time. We'll have maybe 5 or 10 minutes for discussion. Not to say that you should hold back. Any questions that you're not able to get an answer, keep them for your respective group discussions. And just as an etiquette, to keep the questions practical, right? So we are doing Bhakti Shastri, so keep the questions relevant to Bhakti Shastri. We all have different backgrounds that we have come to. Maybe we have different conceptions. We have read different versions, and it's good to see clarifications on that. As long as we accept the fact that like when Srila Prabhupada makes a statement, he makes it on the authority of Krishna, right? So we accept that Bhagavad Gita is absolute, and Prabhupada's statements are absolute based on the Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, we can debate till the cows come home, right? It's just two people debating. There's no end to it. Okay, so with that, I'm going to end. You will get your group assignments over WhatsApp. From what I understand, you all have formed your groups with your mentors. You'll be meeting them. Next time we'll be doing the group presentations on what we discussed today, right? So on the introduction, I'm going to hand it over to Ruprapnath Prabhu to close the session.
No, thank you so much, Prabhuji, and thanks to all the devotees. I'll be sending the group discussion topics over the WhatsApp group. So we are good, Prabhuji, to end the class today. Thank you so much.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha sindhubhyevachah patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha.
Anant Koti Vaishnavind ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanandi.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.